it's my genuine pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker, General Ed Bolton. He's the FAA's Assistant Administrator for NextGen, a program ALPA has been involved with since its inception. General Bolton joined the FAA this past September after a career in the Air Force. He was a three-time commander of operational space units and has had extensive experience managing multi-billion-dollar Air Force space programs. He brings that experience to the Office of NextGen in its work to modernize the national airspace system, where he leads the nearly 1,000 employees and oversees their $1 billion annual budget. And on a personal note, I've had the pleasure of working with General Bolton on several committees throughout Washington. I've been in many meetings with Ed, and I'm going to tell you, whether it's NextGen Advisory Committee, NextGen Institute, meetings with NATCA, Ed Bolton is the precise leadership that we need at this time to get NextGen complete and moving forward on time. It's great to have Ed here. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming General Bolton. Sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much, Lee. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me. I wish you could learn to speak more directly to issues that you care about and learn to see what's on your mind. So I want to thank you. I mean, he's a great American. Had the opportunity to be with him in Las Vegas as he was honored with the top award that NACA gives for the year. And to see that given to a pilot, I think that says something very special about him. I think he's in the tradition of David Benich, who created this organization in 1931. I think you're the 9th president. Also a great American. I also want to thank Sean Cassidy, your first vice president. The two of them were the people that conspired to bring me here. And, I kind of thought, it had to be a cold day in Washington when two Navy fighter pilots have to ask an Air Force engineer to come talk to you about pilots getting it done safely and securely. But I'll take that. It's kind of interesting. I want to talk a little bit about tradition. I mean, of course I'm here to sell you on NextGen, but I hope to this group it's an easy sell. And part of my logic is that working with and supporting NextGen is part of the tradition of not just this organization, but of pilots themselves, right? And so back to Mr. Cassidy, he's done some great things for NextGen, but the thing that he did that I saw, he didn't do it, was a result of his work that impressed me the most was I was at a Tuskegee Airmen event. Anyone know who Tuskegee Airmen are? If you don't know who Tuskegee Airmen are, ask a pilot. All right. And his son, young Connor, is Connor 12 years old? Yes. So Sean was there with his wife and his young son, and unprompted during the Q&A period with the Tuskegee Airmen, his son took the mic and stood up there and asked him about how about the challenges and difficulties of learning to fly and defending your country under conditions of racism that they faced. And I'll tell you, it's a moment I'll remember all my life. And so when you see a 10-year-old who has an appreciation for the legacy of flying, right, going back, dating from before any of us were born, that says something very special about this man, his wife. Of course, I want to say something, a Navy pilot, he was smart enough to marry an Air Force pilot. So thank you for sharing that special moment. Thank you for that. So let me start off with NextGen and talk about what it's doing. But I want to talk about NextGen in kind of three pieces, using a kind of a time span. First, about the future, right, the distant future. And for me, distant future is post-2020, post-2025. Talk a little about the midterm. That's in the 17 or 18 to 2020 time frame. And then talk about what we're doing now. Now, the future, I certainly can't predict the future, but I'm very interested in it because I plan to live the rest of my life in it. The research and development that's developing what's going to happen next is being done by our tech center. And so Gus Sarkos is here, and he's done a lot of the lithium battery research. Matter of fact, Gus, and of course, I saw Gus in the lobby today. I didn't recognize him because he had a suit on. He combed his hair. Gus is really, really one of North America's most distinguished safety experts. And so if you haven't had a chance to go down to the tech center and see his presentation, where he walks through a lot of the major accidents and then the cause and effect types of analysis he does, he's going to be that he does. It has led to some tremendous safety improvements. Today he's going to be talking most about lithium batteries. So that's the distant future. But I think it's important when you're talking about the future. And we have 3 speakers here today. I'm one. We also have Paul Rinaldi, another great American. I hope you read his Next Gen Now magazine, just came out. It's a great summary for Next Gen. The third one is an astronaut. And so why is it important that we worry about the future? Well, when you see the astronaut, ask him, when he took his first flight, ask him if he thought that in 2014, Americans would need Russians to get into space. Ask me if you thought that. And so, in a real sense, we're fighting for our future today. And, being number one is not a birthright. The Tuskegee Airmen fought for it in World War II. Some of you fought for it in the Gulf. I know Mr. Cassidy flew in support of missions in the Gulf. And some of us may have to fight again, or our children. Right? And so as you think of the importance of Next Gen, as you think of the opportunity to fly safely, not just today, but in the next decade, it's not the best way, it's the only way we have. So in that midterm, in the 2018 to 20 timeframe, we have 7 major programs, 7 major acquisitions: ADSB, Datacom, ERAM, TAMR, TFDM, Voice, and SWIM. Those programs will build out in the 18 to 20, 22 timeframe and will deliver capabilities that are not revolutionary from a technology perspective, but will enable revolutions from a procedure perspective that will make a significant difference. But before we get to that, I'd like to talk to you about what we're doing now. What are we focused on in the 1 to 3 year time frame that's going to deliver benefits without any additional equipage based upon the technology and work that's already been done? And that's the work that we're doing through the Next Gen Advisory Council. Who's involved with the Next Gen Advisory Council Committee? Is Rocky Stone here? I know he's involved. I know these 2 gentlemen, of course. What a great name, Rocky Stone. So through the Next Gen Advisory Committee, and again, this organization is well represented, right? Industry gave us your priorities, right? Your priorities, not ours, your priorities, based upon work we're already doing. And said, would you focus and show us how you're going to deliver capabilities in 1 to 3 years time frame based upon our priorities, right? Multiple runway ops, surface, PBN, and we added on Datacom because it's a revolutionary transformation that will significantly reduce the amount of interaction, necessary interaction between the pilot and the controller. And so last week we were on Capitol Hill with Steve Dixon, who's representing you all, and Melissa Rudinger, who's also in representation, and Andy Sevilla, talking to Congressman Lobiano and Larson about how we were within a month of coming to consensus on specific plans and schedules to deliver capability in the 1 to 3 year area time frame in each of these areas. And so my commitment to you is that by the 18th of October, you'll have plans with my signature on it that has milestones, timelines, metrics, costs by location to deliver capability in the 1 to 3 years area and 1 to 3 year time frame in each of these areas. And that's the FAA's commitment to you all, and we will execute to those milestones. All right? But there's no such thing as a free lunch. I forgot to ask, is there media present? Any media? Media? In conclusion, I saw one. Is there another? Is that it? That back there? Okay. Okay, we got you outnumbered. Bolton. Okay. So that's our commitment, is that we'll have those plans in place, and frankly, we expect to wrap up the agreements at the end of this month, and to deliver capability. Now, there's no such thing as a free lunch. So if you were to go to our website, you'll see Captain Cassidy talk about the transformational difference that NextGen has already made for Alaska Airlines. Already made. He says the difference is stark, right? A stark contrast, right? But you can't make a difference if pilots don't request the procedures, right? And OPD is only good if you use it, right? And so, and again, being new to this business, I'm Air Force, but, I wasn't a flyer, I'm an engineer and program manager. So, but in trying to get smart in my time, I've done about 4 jump seat rides. I've done 6 or 8 simulator rides. But again, doing a jump seat or a simulator ride doesn't make you a pilot any more than having a heart transplant makes you a cardiologist. But it certainly gives you an appreciation of the science. And so I had an opportunity to do a jump seat ride with Brian Townsend from DC to Phoenix. Over Albuquerque, we had nearly our final conversation with air traffic controllers, all the way forward in idle, smooth sailing down. I'm told that they save $12 million a year in Phoenix alone using OPDs. On the flight back and talking with the pilot, our friends and I were joking around with him, and told him that I'd done a jump seat ride and an OPD, and he says, "Yeah, we do those sometimes." And he says, "What do you do for a living?" I says, "Well, I work on the NextGen program." And he said, "NextGen? What's that?" Can't make this up. You can't make this up. So what do we need from you? What do we need from you all? We need you to get smart about this technology. We need to understand what's going on, right? Right? We need you to be leaders, right, in transforming this domain. We'll get the procedures in place. We'll deliver, but again, you got to use them, right? You have to request them. You have to use them. You have to be smart on the technology. You have to be leaders. You have to bring this technology to bear. Otherwise, the window of opportunity in which we're provided the funding that it takes to make this transformation is finite, right? And so they say you have to, make hay while the sun shines. You need to make hay. You need to make a difference. You need to make a difference. So, we'll do our piece. And if you hear that we're not, please, edward.bolton@faa.gov. Shoot me out, or, talk to Sean and Lee. They know how to find me. Or come to any NAC meeting. Or to the tech center. And so we'll do our piece of it. But without the people in this room, the people you represent, and the 51,000 members, we're dead in the water. And as a space guy, again, I'm old enough to remember exactly what I was doing January 20th, 1969, when Americans first walked on the moon. And so as I stand here as a meeting, any meeting that starts with the national anthem is a pretty good meeting for me, right? It reminds me of what we're doing and why we're here. Right? I don't think anyone gets any bonuses for the work they're doing in this room. You're in here to make a difference. And so if you're old enough to remember that there was a time when Americans were absolutely number one in space, and now we're not. Today, we're absolutely number one. The busiest, most complex, right, most diverse, largest, safest air domain this world has ever seen. But it's not promised to last forever, unless we do everything we can to make it better each and every day. So, thank you all for what you're doing. And thank you for the opportunity, again, this is like a rebirth for me, for the opportunity to continue to serve my country in this capacity. Thank you all, good morning, and I'll take any questions that you have on this topic. Thank you.
So we're going to take a few questions. Ed?
Oh, we'll take.
I'm confident that this is not a shy crowd.
If there's any questions, yes.
So if you have a question, if you'd go up to the mic, I'd like to encourage you to do that. I mean, I could run down there to the mic myself, but I know you must have a question on NextGen.
Anyone know any good jokes?
Sir, Rip
Torn.
Good morning. Thank you for that overview. I was just wondering if you could elaborate a little bit on some of the discussion they've had for the air traffic control changes that are going to have to come about on doing this, and specifically, what is the administration's view on privatization of the ATC system?
Anyone else interested in the answer to that question?
Here's a lightning rod.
Who else is interested? I'm interested in the answer to that question. All right, so I'll give you there was a meeting here, right? The FAA has no official position on this, and as a next-gen guy, I have less of a dog in the fight than any senior leader at FAA. But allow me to speak frankly, I guess, which I think I already have. So I had a chance to talk to the Canadian leaders, the COO who's running this, and the American consultant that helped them put it in place, and asked a couple questions. The first question I asked is, how long did it take you to get it right? They said 10 years. We don't have 10 years, right? Right? We don't have 10 years. Second question I asked, I said, what kind of oversight do you have? Zero. No GAO, no IG, no congressional committees, right? No OMB. Sounds pretty good to me, But what are the chances in our system that that's going to happen, right? So that's the second question I asked. The third question I asked is that how long did it take you to put the leadership team in place that you needed to get it done right? How long did it take, right? Or to what percent? To what extent do you have the same leadership team that started this process as you ended this process? He says about 40%. And so if you could give us a scenario in which we had 10 years to get it right, in which we had 100% control over who we put in what locations, and we had absolutely no oversight, that might be an interesting proposition. But again, NextGen doesn't have a dog in this fight. My only fear is that like most really smart people who think of great ideas, they have no idea how to get them done and the implementation path, and I think that'd be the difficult part, is that I would be more afraid that you screw something up on the way. And we're in an industry, and again, if this past few weeks doesn't tell you this, that you can't afford to have a bad week. You can't afford a bad 10 years, you can't afford a bad week, you can't afford a bad day. So again, fear. Got to be right. Any other, answer your question?
Thank you.
All right. Thank you again.
All right. My pleasure. Thank you for what you're doing. Thanks, Lee.